Hello and welcome to Prep Eve, where we revolutionize how you prepare for IELTS. I am back with the guided reading practice series, and today we are going to solve match the heading questions from the book 8 of the Cambridge series. So let's get started. So, first of all, I will be telling you the step by step strategy to solve this particular kind of question, and then simultaneously, I'll be telling you how we have to do it. So, first and foremost, we have to read the instructions carefully. So, very first thing that you have to do, and this is universal, this is in case of any of the questions that you're solving, you have to read the instructions carefully. Please do it very carefully. Sometimes the instructions would have words like no more than 2 words, no more than 1 word, so on and so forth. So please keep that thing in your mind. So we read the instructions carefully. Let's do that. So this is reading passage 2 from test 2 of Cambridge book 8. So it says you should spend about 20 minutes on question 14 to 26, which are based on reading passage 2 on the following pages. Question 14 to 17 have to be solved here. Reading passage 2 has 6 paragraphs, A till F. Choose the correct heading for paragraphs B and D till F from the list of headings given below. These are the list of headings that we have. Write the correct number 1 till 9 in boxes, so on and so forth. So we can ignore that part. Now here you need to understand something. There are 6 paragraphs and we have 9 headings, right? We have 9 headings, which means there are 3 extra headings which will not be the answer to any of the paragraphs, or which will not be the heading to any of the paragraphs that are given below. So please remember this, and this will help you in eliminating the headings as well. So we are done with step 1. We have read the instructions carefully and we have understood that there are 3 extra headings and we just have 6 paragraphs. Okay, 9 headings, 6 paragraphs. Moving on to step 2. What do you do after this? After this, you would read the title. Read the title of the passage. So we go down and we read the title, The Little Ice Age. When you read the title of the passage, you have some idea what would be the content of the passage. So here we can understand that they will be talking about the Little Ice Age before and after and during the Little Ice Age. So it's majorly going to be about this particular age, right? Once we are done with the title, we go back and eliminate the headings which are already given as the answers to certain paragraphs. So they have already solved paragraph A and paragraph C in this case. So the answer to paragraph A is the 8th one. So we strike it off. We don't have to waste our time here. We simply strike it off. And for paragraph C, it's the 5th one. So we strike that off again, because you need to understand one heading can be given or assigned to only one paragraph. The same heading cannot be assigned to more than one paragraphs. We all understand headings can be given to just one paragraph. Okay, the same heading will not be repeated. So we are done with this. We have eliminated the 5th and the 8th one. Similarly, we'll be eliminating paragraph A and paragraph C. So we scroll down. Paragraph A is gone. We don't have to waste our time unnecessarily in reading this paragraph. Then we move on to paragraph C. We strike it off as well. So we'll start with paragraph B when we start solving this particular question. Now 2 steps are done. We have read the title, we have read the instructions. The 3rd step is obviously striking it off. So I'll just write striking off extra information or the ones that are already solved. What is step 4? Step 4 is really important. Step 4 is you read the headings and then you underline the keywords. while you underline the keywords, I also want you to predict. I'll tell you what is predicting and how it needs to be done. Let's do it together. So first of all, there are 9 headings. We have to go through all of those headings and underline the keywords. While we do that, we also have to predict what will be the content of the paragraph that has this particular heading. Let me start with the very first one. So the very first one says predicting climatic changes. First of all, we'll be underlining the keywords predicting and climatic changes. So obviously the entire thing is a keyword. So predicting basically means that in this particular paragraph, the writer will talk about climatic changes in the future, or how we can predict them. What will happen in the next century, what will happen in the next decade, or what will happen in the couple of years from now. So predicting climate changes. So this paragraph will not only talk about climate changes but predicting them. Please remember this. The second one, the relevance of little ice age today. Now, today is the major keyword here. So, this paragraph will talk about the little ice age, of course, and the significance of the little ice age in the current scenario, in today's time. Okay, so this paragraph has to talk about the significance, importance, relevance of the little ice age in today's scenario. The third one is how cities contribute to climate change. Cities contribution climate change. Now this paragraph again will talk about climate change, but it will talk about how cities has led to this particular change in climate. So the focus is on cities. So this particular paragraph will talk about cities, will give examples of cities, metropolitan cities, or towns and all of that, which have contributed to the change in climate. The fourth one says human impact on the climate. So how have humans impacted the climate? What have we done as human beings that has led to the change in climate? So this paragraph will probably give you examples of some activities, some actions done by us human beings which has changed the climate of the world. Fifth one, we don't have to spend time here. We don't have to spend time on the eighth one because it's already taken by other paragraphs in the example. Sixth one says a growing need for weather records. So growing need for recording the weather. So recording is basically collecting data, and there is some need, requirement, or necessity to do that. The seventh one is a study covering 1,000 years. So there's a study, there's a research, there is some experiment that has been done over the period of 1,000 years. So some study, experiment, or research has covered 1,000 years. Okay. Last one is enough food at last. So this paragraph is obviously talking about food. So we have to look for the paragraph which is talking about food and how it is enough towards the end. I mean, there is sufficient food, enough food at last. So I hope it's clear. Now you have read all the headings, you have underlined the keywords, and simultaneously you have predicted क्या हो सकता है paragraph में, what can be or could be the content of the paragraph. I hope I'm clear so far. I want to give a disclaimer here. The predicting part should take maximum 2 to 4 seconds for each heading, not more than 2 to 4 seconds, simply because you're predicting, you're guessing, okay? It's not going to be true. So whatever I've discussed so far, it might be true, it might not be true, but it has set a context in my mind that this heading should have such a content in the paragraph. So I'll be alert as soon as I come up or as soon as I read similar content. Let's move on to the fifth step or fifth point. So once we're done with this, we read one paragraph at a time. Then read all the list of headings and start eliminating. So what you have to do is, I'm sorry if you can't see it, you have to pick up one paragraph. So here A is taken, C is taken, we start with paragraph B. So we read paragraph B and then we go back and read all the list of headings and then start eliminating the wrong ones or the ones that we feel are not the answers to that particular paragraph. Let me show you how. So paragraph B, now if the paragraphs are really lengthy and you're short on time, you can also read the first 3-4 sentences and the last 3-4 sentences. You will come up with the answer. Okay. However, if you have sufficient time, I would recommend that you go through the entire paragraph, asking yourself, what is the gist of this paragraph? What is this paragraph trying to tell me? So that's another thing I'll write down here itself. Step 6 after reading one paragraph is that you have to ask yourself, what is this paragraph trying to tell me, trying to convey? Or you can ask yourself in your mother tongue. My mother tongue is Hindi, so I can ask myself this question, ये paragraph मुझसे कहना क्या चाहता है? And once you ask yourself this question, you get the gist of the paragraph. And once you get the gist of the paragraph, it will be very easy for you to eliminate and come to the right answer. And here I always emphasize on one thing. When you're attempting MCQ questions or you are attempting match the heading questions, do not look for the right answer. Start eliminating the wrong ones and you will automatically reach the correct answer. So let's begin with the first one, which is paragraph B. I'll just read it out for you and then we'll go back to the list of headings and start eliminating them. The Little Ice Age lasted from roughly 1300 until the middle of the 19th century. So they're telling you the time span. Only 2 centuries ago, Europe experienced a cycle of bitterly cold winters, mountain glaciers in the Swiss Alps were the lowest in recorded memory, and pack ice surrounded Iceland for much of the year. The climatic events of the Little Ice Age did more than help shape the modern world. So the climatic events of Little Ice Age, so the events which are mentioned here of the Little Ice Age did more than help shape the modern world. How did it help in shaping the modern world is the question. They are deeply important context for the current unprecedented global warming. So it's trying to tell you that Little Ice Age would help you in understanding why or how the current global warming has come into the picture. The Little Ice Age was far from a deep freeze, however, rather an irregular seesaw of rapid climatic shifts. So they're trying to tell you that Little Ice Age was not only about the frozen times or deep winters or prolonged winters. It was a rapid switch, or there were shifts or seesaw, few lasting more than quarter century, driven by complex and still little understood interactions between the atmosphere and the ocean. The seesaw brought cycles of intensely cold winters and easterly winds, then switched abruptly to years of heavy spring. So in between we had cold winters, then we had spring, then there was summer, then mild winters again, then there were storms and droughts, and then winds and heat waves. So that basically describing this climatic shift. I hope everyone's clear. So now once you've read this paragraph, you have to ask yourself, ये paragraph मुझसे कहना क्या चाहता है? What is this paragraph trying to convey? And once you ask yourself this question, you come up with the answer. So I guess this particular paragraph is telling me about the climatic events during the Little Ice Age which have led to global warming, or which give an explanation to the global warming in today's time. So, the modern world, or, it says current unprecedented global warming, and then this is the explanation, right? Now we go back to the list of headings and we read each and every one of them and start eliminating. So, how do you do that? You have to read and ask yourself, is this paragraph predicting climate changes? Yes, it is talking about climate changes, but is it predicting? क्या ये predict कर रहा है? Is it talking about the future? The answer is no, so you eliminate it. Next up, the relevance of little ice age today. Is this paragraph talking about little ice age? Definitely. Is it talking about its relevance, significance in today's time? I guess there's some relation with today's time. They're talking about how it led to global warming in the modern world and the current scenario, so on and so forth. So I think second could be the answer. But we won't stop here. We will start reading the rest of the headings and eliminate them as well. So let's read the third one. How cities contribute to climate change. Is there any mention of cities? No, not at all. We strike it off. Human impact on the climate. Is there any mention of how humans are impacting climate? No mention of humans. We strike it off. A growing need for weather records. Definitely no mention of that. No mention of recording weather or the need to record it. A study covering 1,000 years. Yes, there's some mention of years here. Let's just read it carefully. 1300s until the middle of the 19th century. So yes, there's mention of a period, but this is time period or duration. They are not really talking about any study here or any research or any experiment that lasted for 1,000 years. So this again cannot be the answer. Last but not the least, there's no mention of food. So this is also not the answer. So even if you're not sure with respect to the second title, you still get the answer because none of the other options, none of the other headings seem to be correct. Okay, so for now, we'll write the second option as the answer to paragraph B, and then we'll move on to the next one, which is D. So this says, this book is a narrative history. So we are talking about some book which is on the history of climatic shifts during the past 10 centuries and some of the ways in which the people in Europe adapted to them. So there were shifts in climates, there were some climatic changes, and how the Europeans adapted to it is mentioned in this particular book. Part 1 describes the medieval warm period, roughly from this to this. During these 3 centuries, the voyagers from northern Europe explored northern seas, settled in Greenland, visited North America, blah blah blah. It was not a time of uniform warmth. For then, as always, since the Great Ice Age, there were constant shifts. Again, here we're talking about shifts in rainfall and temperature. There are changes. Mean European temperatures were about the same as today, perhaps slightly cooler. Okay, so here in this paragraph, we ask ourselves the question again, what is this paragraph trying to tell me? What is this paragraph trying to convey? So the answer is very simple, that this paragraph is trying to tell you about some book which has a mention of the climatic shifts during the past 10 centuries of these people, what they did, how they adapted, especially in case of Europe. Okay, let's go back. Instead of looking for the right answer, we start eliminating the wrong ones and ultimately we'll reach the right answer. So is there any prediction of climate changes? No, they're just mentioning what happened in those years in the past. So there's no prediction again. So we put a cross there. Any mention of today? The entire paragraph is talking about the past. So past 10 centuries, then 900 to 1200, these 3 centuries. So there's no mention of today. So we strike the second one off. Any mention of cities? No, there's mention of countries, of course, but there's no mention of cities or how they have contributed to climate change. Strike it off again. Human impact on the climate? There's no mention of humans at all. Growing need of weather records. They have recorded the weather or they have recorded the climatic shifts, but are they talking about the need, the requirement or the necessity to do that? No, so we strike it off again. Then a study covering 1,000 years. Yes, there's a mention of a book, so that could be a study, that could be a research experiment, so on and so forth. But is it talking about covering 1,000 years? Let's go back, read it. So the book could be a research, study, or experiment. Pardon me for my bad handwriting, I'm writing really fast. I hope you can understand. And here, past 10 centuries. So each century is for how many years? 100 years. So past 10 centuries become 1,000 years. So yes, this particular paragraph is talking about a study or basically a research that has taken or that has happened or covered for the past 1,000 years. So the answer to this one is most likely the seventh option, because there's no mention of food also. So this can also not be the answer. So we are left with just the seventh one. So we'll mark it as the answer. So even if you're not sure about what the paragraph means, I guess you can easily come up with the answer, simply because no other option seems to be true. So we have to strike this off again. Yeah. Moving on to the next one. So this one's answer is D, would be the seventh one. Okay. E. So this is a very long paragraph. So again, I'll ask you to skim and scan through the paragraph. Don't have to read everything. Just ask yourself what's the gist. Okay. So let's start reading it. It is known that the Little Ice Age cooling began in Greenland and the Arctic in about this. As the Arctic ice pack spread southward, nose voids to the west were rerouted into the open Atlantic, then ended altogether. Storminess increased in North Atlantic, North Sea, colder, much better weather descended on the Europe between this to this years when thousands perished in continent-wide famine. So perished is basically, they're dying because of famine. Okay. Famine is bhuka akal parna. I guess it's like you're hungry and you don't have enough food. So food deficit is basically famine. By 1400, the weather had become decidedly more unpredictable and stormier, with sudden shifts, lower temperatures that culminated in cold decades. For the 16th century, fish should ring a bell. What is it? Food. Let's check if it's actually food or they're talking about something else. Were a vital commodity in growing towns and cities where food supplies, again there's a mention of food, were constant concern. So this paragraph is the only paragraph so far that is talking about food, and we have a heading which is mentioning about food. We just have to match if it's exactly what we are trying to say. So again, they're talking about food in this particular paragraph. European fish trade, but changes in water temperature forced fishing fleets to work further offshores, developed first offshore fishing boats adapted to a colder, a gradual agricultural revolution. So there's some mention of food again, stem from concerns over food supplies at the time of rising population. So basically the population was increasing and that could not and the supplies were not in terms with the rise in population. The number of people were increasing and food supply was not sufficient for them. The revolution involved intense commercial farming and growing of animal fodder on land not previously used for crops. The increased productivity from farmland made some countries self-sufficient in grains. So self-sufficient in grains is basically that they could protect themselves from famine. They were not dependent, or they were self-sufficient in grain and livestock and offered effective protection against famine. So here, first of all, the entire paragraph is talking about food. That food was initially not sufficient for everyone, which led to the famine. And after the agricultural revolution and commercial farming of animal fodder, they became self-sufficient. So let's go back. There's only one heading on food. So we start doing the same process again. I want you to do this on your own. I won't be doing it for this particular paragraph. Do this on your own. Start eliminating each one of these, and then you'll see that the only heading that makes sense is the last one, enough food at last. In the end, they had enough food. they were self-sufficient. They could protect themselves from famine, which is easily explained in these lines. These lines, right? Okay, moving on to the last one, F. Global temperatures began to rise slowly after 1815. So temperatures are increasing with the beginning of the modern warm period. There was a vast migration from Europe by land hungry farmers, and it contributed to North America, Australia, New Zealand, blah blah blah. Millions of hectares of forest and woodland fell before the newcomers' axe as intensive European farming methods expanded across. The unprecedented land clearance. What is land clearance? It's deforestation. Released vast quantities of carbon dioxide. So they're talking about climate change here, right? Climatic changes, triggering for the first time humanly caused global warming. So they're talking about climate change again. Temperatures increased more rapidly in the 20th century with the use of fossil fuels, and greenhouse gas level continued to soar. The rise has been even steeper since 1980s. The Little Ice Age has given way to new climatic regime marked by prolonged and steady warming. So the warm weather has continued to increase. At the same time, extreme weather events like category 5 hurricanes are becoming more frequent. So ask yourself the same question: what is this paragraph trying to tell me? The paragraph is trying to convey that there has been climatic change because of land clearance, which is humanly caused. Because of the use of fossil fuels, greenhouse gases have increased because of the release of carbon dioxide. So they're telling you how the climate has changed and how humans are responsible for them. So let's go back and start eliminating the headings. So is this paragraph predicting climate changes? Yes, this paragraph is talking about climatic changes, but it is not predicting them. There's no prediction whatsoever. They're talking about the past. They're talking about 1980s, the 20th century. Right now we are in the 21st century. They're not talking about the relevance of Little Ice Age today. There's no mention of Little Ice Age in that particular paragraph. How cities contribute? No mention of cities. Yes, there's mention of countries, but not cities, and definitely not how they contribute in climatic change. Human impact on the climate. Yes, they are talking about how humans have changed the climate or have caused global warming because of the use of fossil fuels, deforestation, felling of trees, and how it has increased the greenhouse gases. Then there's no mention of growing need for weather records, not mentioned. There is no mention of a study or covering 1,000 years whatsoever, no mention of food. So the answer is the fourth one, because here they're talking about the impact of humans on climate change. I hope everyone's clear. Now the last step is to verify. So step 7, verify your answers quickly. So just have a look at the paragraph and the headings, just match it. You need to justify it to yourself why this is the heading for this particular paragraph. Once you're done with that, you're good to go. In the next video, we'll be solving the same passage and we'll be solving the next set of questions, which are summary and match the events. Okay, so we'll be covering this up. So you can also practice this at home, do it yourself, and then see how I am going to strategize and how I will be solving these questions. So you can keep this as your homework as well. Solve the questions from 18 till 22 and 23 till 26 from book 8, passage 2. Thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you so much for staying till the end. I hope you could understand the step-by-step approach to solving such questions, and if you have any doubts, you can put it in the comment section below. And don't forget to like if you could understand the gist and how you have to approach such questions, and also share this video with everyone that you feel would benefit from it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.